Raw material, A Short Tale by Somerset Maugham. I have long had in mind a novel in which a card sharper was the principal character, and going up and down the world, I have kept my eyes open for members of this profession, because the idea is prevalent that it is a slightly dishonorable one. The persons who follow it do not openly acknowledge the fact. Their reticence is such that it is often not till you have become quite closely acquainted with them, or even have played cards with them 2 or 3 times, that you discover in what fashion they earn their living. But even then, they have a disinclination to enlarge upon the mysteries of their craft. They have a weakness for passing themselves off for cavalrymen, commercial agents, or landed proprietors. This snobbish attitude makes them the most difficult class in the world for the novelist to study. It has been my good fortune to meet a number of these gentlemen, and though I have found them affable, obliging, and debonair, I have no sooner hinted, however discreetly, at my curiosity, after all purely professional, in the technique of their calling than they have grown shy and uncommunicative. An airy reference on my part to stacking the cards has made them assume immediately the appearance of a clam. I am not easily discouraged, and learning by experience that I could hope for no good results from a direct method, I have adopted the oblique. I have been childlike with them and bland. I have found that they gave me their attention and even their sympathy. Though they confessed honestly that they had never read a word I had written, they were interested by the fact that I was a writer. I suppose they felt obscurely that I too followed a calling that the Philistine regarded without indulgence, but I have been forced to gather my facts by a bold surmise. It has needed patience and industry. It may be imagined with what enthusiasm I made the acquaintance a little while ago of 2 gentlemen who seemed likely to add appreciably to my small store of information. I was traveling from Haiphong on a French liner going east, and they joined the ship at Hong Kong. They had gone there for the races and were now on their way back to Shanghai. I was going there too, and thence to Peking. I soon learned that they had come from New York for a trip, were bound for Peking also, and by a happy coincidence meant to return to America in the ship in which I had myself booked a passage. I was naturally attracted to them, for they were pleasant fellows, but it was not till a fellow passenger warned me that they were professional gamblers that I settled down to complete enjoyment of their acquaintance. I had no hope that they would ever discuss with frankness their interesting occupation, but I expected from a hint here, from a casual remark there, to learn some very useful things. One, Campbell was his name, was a man in the late 30s, small, but so well built as not to look short, slender, with large, melancholy eyes and beautiful hands. But for a premature baldness, he would have been more than commonly good-looking. He was neatly dressed. He spoke slowly, in a low voice, and his movements were deliberate. The other was made on another pattern. He was a big, burly man with a red face and crisp black hair, of powerful appearance, strong in the arm, and pugnacious. His name was Peterson. The merits of the combination were obvious. The elegant, exquisite Campbell had the subtle brain, the knowledge of character, and the deft hands, but the hazards of the card-sharper's life are many, and when it came to a scrap, Peterson's ready fist must often have proved invaluable. I do not know how it spread through the ship so quickly that a blow of Peterson's would stretch any man out. But during the short voyage from Hong Kong to Shanghai, they never even suggested a game of cards. Perhaps they had done well during the race week and felt entitled to a holiday. They were certainly enjoying the advantages of not living for the time in a dry country, and I do not think I do them an injustice if I say that for the most part they were far from sober. Each one talked little of himself, but willingly of the other. Campbell informed me that Peterson was one of the most distinguished mining engineers in New York, and Peterson assured me that Campbell was an eminent banker. He said that his wealth was fabulous, and who was I not to accept ingenuously all that was told me. But I thought it negligent of Campbell not to wear jewelry of a more expensive character. It seemed to me that to use a silver cigarette case was rather careless. I stayed but a day in Shanghai, and though I met the pair again in Peking, I was then so much engaged that I saw little of them. I thought it a little odd that Campbell should spend his entire time in the hotel. I do not think he even went to see the Temple of Heaven. But I could quite understand that from his point of view, Peking was unsatisfactory, and I was not surprised when the pair returned to Shanghai, where I knew the wealthy merchants played for big money. I met them again in the ship that was to take us across the Pacific, and I could not but sympathize with my friends when I saw that the passengers were little inclined to gamble. There were no rich people among them. It was a dull crowd. Campbell indeed suggested a game of poker, but no one would play more than $20 table stakes, and Peterson, evidently not thinking it worth his while, would not join. Although we played afternoon and evening through the journey, he sat down with us only on the last day. I suppose he thought he might just as well make his bar chits, and this he did very satisfactorily in a single sitting. But Campbell evidently loved the game for itself. Of course, it is only if you have a passion for the business by which you earn your living that you can make a success of it. The stakes were nothing to him, and he played all day and every day. It fascinated me to see the way in which he dealt the cards very slowly with his delicate hands. His eyes seemed to bore through the back of each one. He drank heavily, but remained quiet and self-controlled. His face was expressionless. I judged him to be a perfect card player, and I wished that I could see him at work. It increased my esteem for him to see that he could take what was only a relaxation so seriously. I parted with the pair at Victoria and concluded that I should never see them again. I set about sorting my impressions and made notes of the various points that I thought would prove useful. When I arrived in New York, I found an invitation to luncheon at the Ritz with an old friend of mine. When I went, she said to me, "It's quite a small party. A man is coming whom I think you'll like. He's a prominent banker. He's bringing a friend with him." The words were hardly out of her mouth when I saw coming up to us Campbell and Peterson. The truth flashed across me. Campbell really was an opulent banker. Peterson really was a distinguished engineer. They were not card sharpers at all. I flatter myself I kept my face, but as I blandly shook hands with them, I muttered under my breath furiously, "Impostors!"